I'm Juliet from Spoiled Russian Beads, and today I am going to show you how to make this beautiful Asteria Pendant kit that we have available in 3 different colorways. It's in the beautiful Volcano that I'm wearing today, the Montana Blue and light Colorado Topaz, and it's the light Colorado Topaz color that I'm going to be demonstrating with today. To make this beautiful pendant, you're going to need a few different things. You're going to need a 12mm Swarovski crystal Rivoli. This colorway here is called Light Colorado Topaz. This one here is called Volcano, and this one is called Montana. You're going to need some size 15 seed beads, size 11 seed beads, some SuperDuo beads, a jump ring, an open jump ring, chain to put your lovely finished pendant on, and in our kit we include an 18.5-inch silver plated chain to pop your finished pendant on. You're going to need some size 10 beading needles, some 6-pound Fireline thread and some thread cutters. So to begin with, you need to take your needle and thread on a nice long length of Fireline thread. The longest length that you can work on is great, and I tend to work on a length that's around 1.5 to 2 meters long, and that's perfect for this project and stops you from having to join any thread on as you go. So once you've got your Fireline thread threaded onto your needle, you need to start off with your size 11 seed beads, and you need to pick up 32 seed beads. So I'm just going to quieten down a minute while I count these. That's 14. That's 22, 23, 24. Okay, so that's 32, but I'm just going to double check that because it's really important to get that right at the beginning here, because if it doesn't go right, you haven't got enough or you've got too many seed beads on, you'll find that your bezel that you're going to make won't fit your lovely sparkly Rivoli. So I'm just going to double count that here. Yep, I've got 32, so I've got 32 size 11 seed beads on there. What I'm now going to do is take my needle and I'm going to go back through all 32 beads there. I'm going to go back through them all and pull it all together, and it will form a circle, and that's going to be the basis for my bezel that I'm going to use to surround my Rivoli there. There we go, so I've gone through all 32 of my beads now, and I'm going to pull that around and form a circle. Making sure I don't lose my tail of thread there. There we go. There we go, and that's pulled round and formed a circle there. So now what I'm going to do is take my little tail of thread, and I'm just going to tie a couple of knots there in that circle, so just to keep that circle shape. So I'm just tying some just regular overhand knots there. Done one, and I'm just going to do another one. I'm going to make this a double knot where I just go round my loop twice before I pull it tight, and I'm going to pull that one tight, and that should be enough there to hold that circle in shape. And I've got a little tail of thread there, and later on in the piece I'm going to cut that off. And I'm now ready to start my peyote bezel. So I'm coming out of one bead here, and I'm going to thread through a few beads just to pull that knot that we just made into a few beads, so that it's hidden away, tucked away inside some beads. And now I'm going to pick up a size 11 seed bead, and I'm going to skip the next bead in the circle and go through the next bead there. So I'm just going to let you look at that for a moment. You can see I'm skipping over a bead and going through the next one in the circle, and pull that through like that, and the little bead will sit there on top. And I'm going to go all the way around my circle doing that. So I'm picking up a size 11, skipping the next bead in the circle and going through the following bead. I'm going to do a few of these, and then I'm just going to let you take a look and just see what it looks like, so you can check your work. So I've picked up an 11, I'm missing the next bead in the circle and going through the next one. I just managed to get my thread in a little tangle there. Just pull that through. There we go. That's the great thing about Fireline. If it does get in a little tangle, it's very quick and easy to sort it out. So if I pop that down now, you can have a look at it there and you can see how those beads are now sitting on the edge there, and that's the beginning of my bezel. And I'm going to go all the way around the circle until I get to the other side, and I'm going to come back to you when I have done that. So I have gone all the way around my circle and I'm almost back to where I began now. There's no more room for me to fit another bead in. So what I need to do is to step up. So I'm stepping up through the very first bead I added in this second round here. So I'm going up through that first bead there. And then what you need to do is do the whole thing again. Just add another round of size 11 seed beads. There we go. I just managed to hook my thread over. There we go. So I'm now coming out through one of these up beads and I'm going to add another round of size 11. So I'm picking up a size 11 and I'm going to go through the next up bead. So I'm effectively skipping out a bead and going through the following bead. Picking up a bead, missing out the next one and going through the next one that's the next up bead, the next bead that's sticking up. And again, I'm going to do this a couple of times and then I'm going to move my fingers out of the way and let you take a look. And it's important as you start making this bezel that you begin to pull it all nice and tight. And you can see as I'm pulling it, as I pull it tight, it starts to sit up and form that bezel shape that you're going to need to grip that Rivoli there. So I'm going to pull that nice and tight and you'll see that is now beginning to sort of sit up on its edge ever so slightly. So I'm going to go all the way around the circle again one more time and come back to you when I have done that. So I've gone almost all the way around my circle for the second time now, and I'm just going to pick up my last bead and I'm going to go through the next bead and then step up through the very first bead I added in this round. So effectively on the last bead you're actually going up through 2 beads there, and that's the stepping up part. And this is called a peyote bezel that we're making now. Just got my tail of thread caught in there. There we go, it's out of the way now. And you can see if I pull that nice and tight now, it's beginning to cup and form that little cup shape that we need it to form to fit that lovely Rivoli into it. So what I need to do now is do another 2 rounds, but this time I'm going to be using the smaller size 15 beads. So I'm picking up a size 15, missing out the next bead in the circle and going through the next up bead in the circle there. I'm going to pull that through. I've done this with a darker colour to make it easy for you to see that size 15 sitting there. So I'm picking up another size 15, miss out the next bead and go through the up bead in the circle. And you can see what I mean by the up beads. They're just sitting ever so slightly higher than the other beads in the circle. And if your tail starts to get in the way like it is on me now, you can trim it off. So I'm going to trim the tail off in just a moment. But you can see I'm starting to add that row of size 15. So I'm going to go all the way around the circle there, and when I get to the end here I'm going to step up through this very first size 15 that I added. So I've gone all the way around my circle with my first row of size 15s, and I've stepped up through the very first size 15 that I added in this round. And I'm going to do that one more time now. So I'm going to add another row of size 15s. So I picked up a 15 and I'm going to go through the next size 15 in the circle there. And this is going to add the final row of size 15 beads to the top. And as you can see, it's all nice and tight. So I'm really pulling this nice and taut as I go now. And this is really quite solid because I'm pulling it tight, and it is important to get a lot of nice thread tension going on when you're making a bezel, because you want it to fit nice and snugly and you don't want your sparkly Rivoli to be able to pop out. So you do need to keep your thread nice and tight. So you can see I'm pulling it nice and tight as I go, and I'm adding this final row here of size 15s. So I'm going to come back to you when I finish that. So I've gone all the way around now with my second row of size 15s, and I've finished now the top of this bezel. So what I'm going to do is turn it over, and I'm going to pop my Rivoli into it from the back there so that the sparkly side is facing out. It looks really pretty. These colours are gorgeous together. Now what I need to do is take my needle and thread and go work my way back down through those rows of beads in that bezel until I am popping out of the back of the bezel at one of the up beads on the back of the bezel, and you can see I am now. And now what I've got to do is do 2 rows of size 15 on the back of this bezel, keeping the Rivoli in place and pulling it nice and tight as I go. So I'm going to pick up a size 15 bead, I'm going to miss out the next bead in the circle, and I'm going to go through the next up bead there and pull that nice and tight, and I'm going to go all the way around my circle, and when I've done that I'm going to go back and do it one more time once around so that it looks exactly the same as the front there. And when I've finished that, I'm going to come back to you. So I've gone all the way around the back of my bezel here with my 2 rows of size 15s, and you can see that it has now gripped my Rivoli in place and it's looking beautiful and sparkly. My thread is still coming out of my size 15s at the back, so what I need to do now is to work through with my needle and take my thread until it comes out of the 3rd row from the back of the size 11s. So I'm going to get myself to the right place here, and then I'm going to let you take a look and you can see where my thread is coming out. So that's where I need to be. So if I count 1, 2, 3 rows from the back, I'm now coming out of the 3rd row from the back. So that's the front, that's the back, and I've counted 1, 2, 3 rows from the back, and I'm now coming out there towards quite close to the front. So it's not the round of size 11s that's right up close to the 15s and the Rivoli, it's the one just that's a second one in, but 3rd from the back. So I'm now ready to start adding my SuperDuo beads to the outside of my Rivoli. So I'm going to pick up a size 15 seed bead, a SuperDuo, and another size 15 seed bead, and I am going to go through the next bead in that round. So I'm coming out of this bead here, and so I'm going to go through the next bead in the round, which is that one there. I'm going to pull this through, and then I'm going to get my fingers out of the way and let you have a little look, and you can see how that sits just like that. So there we go. You can see that sitting there. It doesn't look awfully neat at the moment, but it will neaten up as we add more on. So I'm going to do the same thing all the way around the circle. I'm going to pick up a size 15, pick up a SuperDuo, and pick up another size 15 and go through the next bead in that round. There we go. And the thing that you need to keep an eye on when you're working with the SuperDuo beads is when you pick up a bead, always check that it's got a hole on both sides and both ends, because very occasionally with the SuperDuos you do get a SuperDuo with a blocked hole, and if you get that, then just pop it to one side. You can always use it as a Super Uno actually in another project if you want to, but just make sure that they have got both holes open, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting to the next stage and realizing that you need to unpick your work because you've got one holed SuperDuo in there. So I'm going to come back to you when I've finished this, and then I've gone all the way around. So I've gone all the way around my circle now, and this is my last SuperDuo that I've added, and I'm going to go through now the size 15 and the size and the SuperDuo that I added at the very beginning of this round, so that I'm exiting through a SuperDuo bead. So we go. And so now I'm just gone through the first size 15 and the first super duo, so I'm exiting a super duo bead. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a round of size 11 bead. So I'm going back to my size 11 bead now, picking up a size 11 and going through that bottom hole in the super duos. So I'm going to do this a few times and then I'm going to let you take a look at it, and this will just start to straighten up those super duos in that round there. You can see there's two super duos there that are sort of standing up now because they've got size 11s tucked between them. Picking up a size 11, going through the next super duo in the circle, picking up a size 11, going through the next super duo in the circle, and this just adds a lot of stability to those super duos. You can see how they're really sitting prettily now. So I'm going to go all the way around the circle and then I'll come back to you. I'm gone all the way round now, and I'm just going to go through the first few beads that I added and out through a twin bead here, and just make sure I pull that nice and taut as I go. There we go. And now I'm going to step up through to the next hole, the empty hole on my twin bead. So I'm going to go through that empty hole on the twin bead that I'm coming out of at the moment. And I'm going to add another round of super duos. Sorry, I keep calling them twins. These are definitely super duos. So I'm going to pick up a size 15, a super duo, and another size 15, and then go through the next super duo in the round. So I'm going to go all the way around and add on my final round of super duo beads. So I'm going to come back to you when I've done that, when I've gone all the way around there. So I've added my next round of super duos. Now I'm pulling it nice and tight, and you can see that they're all sitting up at slightly odd angles, but don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in this final round here. So I'm now going to step up through the empty hole in the super duo that I am exiting, and I'm going to add a final round of size 15, size 11 and size 15 in between each of these super duo beads here. So I'm going to 15 and 11 and a 15 and go through the next empty hole in the next super duo in the circle, and you'll see already they're all just starting to sit nicely. So I'm going to go all the way around my circle and come back to you when I have done that. So I've gone all the way around now and I have finished embellishing my Rivoli. And at this stage it's important not to pull it all too tight, because if you pull it all too tight like this, it will start to sort of ruck up and wrinkle upwards, and you don't want it to do that. So don't pull your beadwork too tight at this stage. Give it a little bit of room to move, and so that it sits nice and flat like that. So all I need to do now is to add the little loop onto the top here so that I can add my jump ring. So to do that, I am going to pick up 7 size 15 beads and then go through the next super duo. So I'm exiting a super duo and I'm going to pick up 7 size 15 seed beads. And I'm going to go through the next super duo. So I'm missing out the 3 beads there, and I'm going through the next super duo bead in the circle. And that just makes a nice little loop there that I can use to attach my jump ring to. So I'm ready to finish off my thread now. So I'm going to tie some half hitch knots in between some of the beads like so. I'm going to stitch through a few more beads here and tie some more half hitch knots. I always like to tie a couple just to make sure it's nice and secure. You see, I'm not pulling the beadwork too tight because I want to give it a bit of room to move. And I'm going to tie one more. This is going to be my last half hitch knot here. There we go. And I'm now ready to trim off my thread, and I'll use some jump rings to attach the I'm use some pliers to attach the jump ring to the loop there, and then I can pop my pendant on the chain. So I'm going to trim off my thread and I shall go away and do that. And I hope you have enjoyed watching today. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and come back next time for more videos.